Joe King walks out on stage and says, "Hello, yes, my name's Joe King. I'm not joking, though I prefer to be called Juris Dr. King. Anyway, why is the country's news stories these days so serious? Ex-presidents charged with multiple crimes, a cultural, civil Cold War that never seems to end. Can't we just be more campy again? Remember the 90s? The big story was whether the president got head or not. 90s politics was like 90210, and now it's like Breaking Bad. Jesus. Relax, everybody. Relax. Okay, did so-and-so get head? Just go with that. Oh, my God. Anyway, don't conservatives realize that with abortion, the abortioners can't just kill any babies, just their own future, presumably liberal-leaning babies? Conservatives, if you want to win the long game, you should be embracing this whole abortion thing. They'll just be taking out future blue voters. Now, I'm a fan of diversity. Applause, applause, applause. Okay. But the thing about diversity now is we now have a lack of diversity in the amount of diversity in a given situation. What I mean by that is because everything is diverse now, we no longer have a lack of diversity, meaning gouging the level of diversity in given formats, we no longer have no diversity. And something can't be truly diverse without it including a lack of diversity as well, because diversity by definition includes everything, including no diversity. Anyway, so I try to have at least one racially charged joke every few minutes, keep everyone on their toes. Like those Asians, am I right? Toes indeed with them, right? Can you believe those Asians and their toes? Okay, there's no Asian stereotype regarding toes that I know of. I just wanted to see if you still got offended. Okay, you should test your friends. Go up to someone and say that this guy, he was so racist, he brought up Asians and their toes. Can you believe that? Their toes. That's completely inappropriate. To me, the answer should be, what the hell are you talking about? What's with Asians and their toes? What the hell does that even mean? But if the person nods and agrees, they either can't hear you very well or are being disingenuous with you and just want to seem like they're politically correct at all costs, even when they don't know what the hell you're talking about. But it's entirely possible that they just can't hear you that well and are nodding in agreement to get you to shut the hell up. Has that ever happened to you? Well, it happened to me once when I was a public defender. Okay, I was talking to a client outside of court, and she was very animated and upset, and there happened to be a deputy watching us talk outside of court. So after this conversation, I went inside the courtroom to ask the prosecutor to get a continuance on the case while the client stayed outside. However, the deputy followed me in, and since she can't be loud in the courtroom, the deputy whispered something to me. Problem was, I couldn't hear what the hell he said. I figured he just made a comment about how animated my client was, so I just very stupidly nodded and pretended I heard what he said. I shouldn't have done that because when I went back outside the courtroom, the deputy was in the process of arresting my client. My client started yelling at me, "What the hell are you doing? You're having me arrested?" And I said, "No, I have no idea what's going on." And then the deputy yelled, "What are you talking about? I just asked you if your client had a warrant and you said yes." The misunderstanding was soon cleared up, but the lesson is, never nod to someone when you can't hear them. They'll either think you're being politically correct at all costs, like with the Asians and their toes, or you'll end up having your client almost get arrested for no reason. Joe King walks off stage and onto another stage, sits at a seat behind a desk and says, "Please welcome to the program one of the very best comedic actors of his generation, the one and only John Candy." John Candy emerges from behind a curtain and waves at the audience. Applause, applause, applause. Candy walks over and sits at a seat next to King's desk. "King, welcome to the show, John." Candy, "Thank you for having me." King, "Now you were born and raised in Canada, correct?" Candy, "That's right. I was born in Toronto and raised in Newmarket, Ontario, yep." King, "Okay, and you lost your dad to a heart attack when you were only 5 years old. That must have been tough." Candy,
Yeah, it really was. But I felt throughout my life that the spirit of my father was with me, and now they were both dead, I see him all the time.
Okay, very good. Now, in high school, you were a football player, is that correct?
Candy. That's correct.
Okay, but since it was Canada, are you just calling what I would call soccer football? Why not just call it soccer so as not to confuse everybody?
Candy. No, actually, I was playing American football in high school.
Really? In Canada?
Candy. Sure, haven't you ever heard of the Canadian Football League?
Okay, fair enough. So, were you a wide receiver? Quarterback? What position?
Candy. I played offensive line.
Really? I wouldn't have pictured that.
Candy. Are you kidding me? I was a pretty big guy.
Is that right?
Candy. Look, I'm starting to wonder whether you're even familiar with me or my life here. King looks down at his notes and says,
No, I did my homework. I just didn't have it in my notes that you were a bigger guy. I was picturing you as kind of like a string bean for some reason.
Candy. A string bean? I was not a string bean, fella. King looks Candy over and says,
Yeah, no, it doesn't appear so. So I take it you ate a lot of candy then, huh, with your last name and all?
Candy rolls his eyes and says, Is this your pathetic excuse for a show? Thinking I'm a string bean and then asking me if I like eating candy? No wonder no one listens.
Wow, okay, well, I thought the candy question was apropos, but moving on. In your early 20s, you were cast in a number of small roles in mostly Canadian TV series and films. Now, how the hell did a guy like you manage to fit into such small roles?
Candy. So you're going to stay on that track, huh? Even though 2 minutes ago you thought I was a string bean?
I never thought you were a string bean. I was just fucking with you. Relax.
Candy. I was told this show was about honoring dead people. It sounds to me like you're trying to give me a hard time.
Okay, well, moving on.
Candy. Did you ever think that maybe your show is wildly unpopular because people cringe at making fun of dead people?
Well, wildly unpopular is a bit of a stretch. Not unlike all those pants you tried to wear.
Candy stands up and bangs the table with his hand and says, Knock it off, wise guy. Just ask your questions so I can get the hell out of here. As Candy sits back down, King says,
Very good. Now, you became part of Second City's Toronto branch in 1972 and were a big star on their Second City television.
Candy. That's right. Now, finally, there's a good question. It was an amazing experience, and I loved it.
Although it must have been a double-edged sword as you suffered from anxiety and panic attacks.
Candy. That's actually true, yep. I was nervous as hell the entire time, but I got through my anxiety and put on the shows and enjoyed it.
Very good. And are you nervous right now?
Candy. No, because no one listens to this.
Touche, okay? My show is like the tree falling alone in the woods, okay? Very good. Now, you had tons of success on SCTV. But in 1979, you took a hiatus from it to begin a more active film career?
Candy. That's right. I was in movies like Lost and Found, 1941, and The Blues Brothers.
Very good. And you had a short-lived NBC show called Roadshow.
Candy. That's right. It was kind of like improvised journalism. We mostly traveled to college towns, interviewed students partying. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. And from there, you were in some more films before returning to SCTV.
Candy. Yeah, I was in Stripes and Heavy Metal, National Lampoon's Vacation, and then went back to SCTV in 1981, and I even got to host SNL in 1983.
Is that right? I created a loving spoof of SNL called Saturday Night Live, though we're on hiatus because of the writer's strike.
Candy. I'm well aware. I hosted episode 136.
That's right. You and Bob Hoskins had some fun in the monologue. Anyway, you really then hit stardom with the movie Splash.
Candy. Oh, yeah, it was great working with Tom. It was a very well-received movie and led to me getting cast in several other movies, including The Last Polka, Brewster's Millions, Follow That Bird, Summer Rental, Volunteers, Armed and Dangerous, and Spaceballs.
Okay, very good. And then you were, in my opinion, one of the best comedic films ever, with Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Candy. That's right. That was a John Hughes film, and it led to my roles in some of his other films, including She's Having a Baby, The Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck, and Home Alone.
King, and before you died, you starred in one last comedic hit, Cool Runnings.
Candy. Yes, I did, and that was a lot of fun. I had a blast making it. Seeing those Jamaican fellas bobsled down those hills, it brought me a lot of joy.
King, okay, we're running out of time. Do you want to leave us with anything?
Candy. Just that even though we got off on the wrong foot earlier on, I'm happy to have done your little show here. King and Candy shake hands.
King, very good. John Candy, everybody.
Applause, applause, applause.
King, that's all the time we have for this program, but tune in the next one where we interview another deceased guest. Until then, I'm Joe King, and I'm not joking.